Welcome to You Are Not Alone. I am spiritual medium Erika Gabriel. This show is intended to bring expansion, understanding, and growth on our spiritual paths and journeys. This is a safe place to explore all things spiritual and beyond. Please remember, I am not a licensed therapist or medical doctor. Seek immediate professional help if you need mental health or physical health support. Hello. Welcome back to You Are Not Alone. I am your host, spiritual medium Erika Gabriel, and I'm so happy to be talking to you today. If you've been listening into this podcast for a while, I've missed you so much. I am so happy to be back connecting with you in this incredible medium of the podcast world, right? I'm so happy to be with you again. And if you have just started listening to my podcast and you listened to my last episode and here's another episode, it's like I never left. Either way, the fact that you're trusting me to hang with you and be in your ear, I feel like podcasts are so intimate because when we listen to podcasts, we're like in our car, we're in our ear pods, like out for a run, we're, cleaning our house. It's just such an intimate thing. And, thinking you guys are a lot like me. And I am so sensitive about what I allow into my space, right? It doesn't mean I don't watch like crap TV sometimes and, zone out, but it means that on a deeper level, when I allow messages in and really thought-provoking messages in, I'm really mindful and careful about who I let in. And so the fact that I'm one of the people that you're vibing with to let in your ear and into your consciousness and, maybe bring some ideas to you that are uplifting or even thought-provoking is really, really cool. So thank you for trusting me. Thank you for tuning in. And again, if you've been hanging with me for a while, you have waited. You have waited for this podcast to come back. And now I'm back. And I'm really, really excited to be doing this podcast. You are not alone. So with this first episode, I've been thinking a lot about it, right? And the thing that I wanted to talk about was this idea of bringing in your spiritual beliefs, your spiritual practice, your spiritual seeking, your spiritual awakening into your daily life, right? It's like I have these amazing experiences. I'm having all of this incredible spiritual seeking exploration, or I have amazing experiences when I'm doing yoga, or I'm having these incredible awakenings when I'm meditating, or when I'm talking to certain spiritual friends, or you're maybe having this whole spiritual world happening. And then you have your normal life, right? And you're like, I have this incredible, powerful, life-changing experience. And then I go to the grocery store. And those are two totally separate people. And so something that's coming up so much for people right now is like, how do I marry and meld and bring together both sides of myself? I think also too, so many people are really shifting and changing. So they feel like, okay, my friends would never understand this part of me. My husband, my wife, my girlfriend, my brother, my sister, my parents will never understand that part of me. I have to be two separate people. So that's one example. And the other example is like, wow, I'm having all of these experiences and how do I make my spiritual life, my spiritual understanding positively affect my day-to-day regular life? How do I bring those two things together? And this is really coming up for a lot of people. And it's this idea of bringing both sides of yourself together and marrying them together and becoming fully empowered and fully self-possessed and owning where you are spiritually. And listen, sometimes where you are spiritually is like, I have no freaking idea of what's going on. And that's okay too. How do I apply everything I'm learning, all that I'm growing into my life. I cannot tell you how many emails, DMs I get every day. Like, oh my gosh, this podcast made me feel like I'm not like such a total weirdo. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm so happy you don't feel like a weirdo anymore and that we're weirdos together. No, I'm just kidding. We're not weirdos, but I'm just saying, and it's obviously it's a joke, but so many people are feeling all these things and feeling like, wow, I have those experiences when I was growing up too, or wow, I see things too, or wow, I feel things too. And here I feel like, okay, others feel what I'm feeling, see what I'm seeing. Even these ideas of spirituality, wow. And then I go back to exactly, you are not alone. No pun intended, or kind of pun intended. I don't know. It just fits so good there, doesn't it? So the idea is, with this podcast, with all the messages that I get, is like, it's so many people are feeling like, wow, I want to allow this spiritual component of my life also bleed into all the other areas. And getting those two feeling comfortable together is really been challenging. And I don't know how to be both sides together in harmony, First of all, you are not alone. I completely understand that. Even though my spiritual experience and being a medium, I ring out every single day of my life, right? Everyone knows what I do. I still have components where it's like there's separation at times, right? And that's normal. That's healthy in life. But I just don't want you guys think that, if you're struggling bringing both worlds and both components of yourself together, that you're somehow lacking or wrong or messing up. Really give yourself some breath, give yourself some space and some grace. You are on a journey. It is unfolding. Think of a beautiful lotus flower with all of the different petals, and they're all opening. They're opening. Things are happening. There's a path and there's a process in front of you. It's okay if it's not all completely aligned this second. Yes? Yes. Keep going. Know that everything is happening in divine timing. Know that you are shifting and growing and changing at the exact right time. I had to learn that the hard way recently, where I really went for something, guys, career-wise, really went for something. And I got the smackdown. I'm not going to lie. I can go into more details of this in another podcast, but I got the smackdown. And, some of it was like this whole timing component that I was going for things that it was not the right time. And I had to find peace and harmony in that. So in terms of today, I want to give you a story and really kind of touching on getting both sides of ourselves all in one place, right? I heard Michael Beckwith tell this story, and he was talking to a woman who was going through a horrible divorce. I guess it was a divorce that she was going through. And her ex-husband was not giving child support. And she called him and she said, I am praying for him every day and I'm sending him forgiveness. And also, I need money. And so I'm constantly thinking about him and thinking about how much I need money from him. So she was bringing in, like we were talking about, that spiritual aspect. She was engaging in forgiveness. She was sending him positive energy. She was doing all the spiritual things, right? But really, in essence, every time she thought about him, she was like, I need you to give me my money, rightfully so. And Michael talked to her for a while. And then that night she had a dream. And in the dream, she was walking down a long hallway and there was a picture of her ex-husband framed in the hallway. And in the dream, she went up to the picture and took it down and hung a photo of quote unquote God, whatever she thought God looked like. And she went back to Michael and, gave him a call. This is Michael Beckwith. And she said, what does this mean? And he said, after our conversation that we had, you tapped into bringing the truth of who you are into this situation. So meaning you were trying to get your abundance, your kind of spirituality, your spiritual practice, your money, your flow and abundance from him, from your ex. And in the dream, you took down that photo and you hung a photo of God. Because what truly is God. I'm not quoting him exactly, guys, right? This is me and my guides interpreting this great story that he told. But you are kind of realigning with truth. You don't get abundance from someone else. You don't get that peace from someone else. You get that from the only thing that's real, and that is spirit, that is God, that incredible alignment within your soul. When you align with truth and with God, all things kind of start to fall into place. So she started aligning and realigning with truth, with God, with who she really was, right? Which is true spirituality. Spirituality, as we know, can look like many things. And from that, all things started to open up and be available in her life, right? She actually got a raise at her work. Then all of a sudden, the energy loosened up and the ex started paying for child support. Like all these amazing things started happening. All these amazing things started happening in her actual life. This story is so important when talking about what we're talking about, which is best of both worlds. Fully embracing both sides of yourself. As we know, some of us feel like we were talking about so disjointed, so separate. Our life and then our spiritual experience, our life and our spiritual seeking, our life and what we truly believe about the universe and God. How do we remedy those two, right? And so the cool thing about this story is I think sometimes we feel that this task is so incredibly daunting. And listen, sometimes the task is daunting. I work with so many people that are in deeply, deeply regimented religious situations. And, they're completely expanding and they're listening to the podcast like, oh my God, these are all the things I think about, not the other things that I'm in, right? And listen, some of it can be challenging, of course. And also, if you, like me at times, are struggling to bring all of who you are into the present moment, all of who you are into your regular life, know that it doesn't have to be super, super complicated. Realign yourself with elevating your energy and your mind to God, to the one truth, to your connection to God. Keep going back in. Reconnect. I reconnect to spirit. I reconnect to the divine. I reconnect to God. I reconnect to God, the truth in my heart. I keep going back to that. And as I do, all things start to align with that truth, align with the truth of who I am, align with my incredible connection to God and to spirit, because I know I was born connected to spirit. My DNA is intertwined with oneness, with spirit, with God. I am with God always. And if I keep realigning myself to that truth, my truth then begins to shine out in all aspects of my life. And I don't have to force others to see things my way. I don't have to force myself to shy away from my truth. I don't have to force myself to dampen or hide away my true beliefs, because my belief is with the one true God that loves us all, that we're all connected to, that we all are. And if I keep on righting my ship, listen, I love saying right my ship. You guys have heard me say that so many times. I think a lot of like comparisons to water and boats and boating and surfing and water. It's just part of how my guides explain things to me. But I think about like a ship, like a sailboat that's kind of like tilting. And it's like, whoa, we gotta pull the steering wheel back. Let's rewrite this ship, rebalance this ship. And the idea when I say that is like, it is so natural to become imbalanced or for things to start to be steering in a wrong direction. I always joke around. I'm like, I literally have to rewrite my ship every single morning. I always laugh. I'm like, I wake up grouchy. I wake up like 100-year-old grouchy lady, like, oh, this again? Shit. Where's my coffee? I'm like a miserable person when I first wake up. I'm like, oh God, not again. And then I'm like, okay, morning routine. I get my coffee. I make a beautiful breakfast for my family. I go into my meditation. I go for my nature walk. I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay, okay. I like it here. I like this chick, Erika. She's vibing. She's vibing. So anyway, listen, we all have to rewrite our ship. And I think if you are someone, and I know many of you are, because these are things that you're writing me, if you are someone that is looking to fully self possess, right, all elements of yourself, if you're someone that's looking to bring in your spiritual into your regular life, quote unquote, right? And you're not finding a way to do that, and you're finding it frustrating, and you feel like you're not understood and people don't understand you. I implore you, and what my guides are telling me to tell you is lift up your energy. Go above that. Instead of squabbling or getting worried about the low level stuff, and this person doesn't understand, and that person doesn't understand, and I can't bring this into there. What if you just lift beyond that and you say, all is well in God? I am fully awake and present in God and in spirit. And, whether I'm going to the grocery store or I'm in a PTA meeting or I'm at work with a challenging job or I'm dealing with a challenging ex, no matter where I am, I can continue to right my ship into truth. My truth, my truth, my core is connected to God. So I can't be fake if I consistently, rewrite my ship and go back to my truth. I can't be fake. Now, maybe in certain situations, right? I focus in that situation, but I'm still me. Maybe I don't publicize to every single person I meet exactly what I think about God, but I'm still me. I can't not be me because I am absolutely connected and plugged into the divine. I'm constantly plugged into God. And all these other mind fucks, excuse my French, if you're new here, I curse a lot. It happens when I'm channeling. All these other mind fucks are just taking me away from that. When I remember who I am, I right my ship every single day. When I remember my truth, when I remember that God is in me, through me, for me, around me, when I remember that every day, that is who I truly am. It doesn't mean I don't bump into troubles. It doesn't mean I don't feel awkward with certain people. It doesn't mean certain things don't vibe with me. But if I can strengthen my ability to plug in to God, to the universe, to truth, to spirit, if I can plug into that, all things fall into place. All things fall into place. I then am fully empowered. I then elevate my energy. I then start to follow truth. And in that is where I find my joy, my miracles, and everything starts to flow. If you are having trouble fully embracing and empowering who you are during this incredible spiritual awakening, understanding path that you're on, don't worry about it. Just plug into God. Stop worrying. Just plug into God. That's all, right? But that's really what the guides are saying. Go back to the truth. Keep it simple. Not everyone is going to understand you, but when you align with your truth and your connection to God, you are riding and vibing on that vibration, and that vibration elevates you higher than any worry, doubt, fear, self-judgment, fear of judgment. You're past it. You're just past it. I really, 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 really hope this makes sense. Are you guys vibing on this? Listen, it's so good when you guys write me on, Apple or whatever, so other people can see it. DM me, I'll post it. It's so funny doing a podcast because, here I am in my office. I actually turned off my camera because I'm just talking to myself. I don't have a guest, right? So it's so cool when you guys give me feedback because then I know if you're feeling it and if you're vibing off it. And it's just so, it's so important. And it's interesting because when you guys write me and I ask, like, does this make sense? And write me, I really had to examine. I'm like, is that for my ego? Do I want you guys to be like, I loved it? Right. And I'm like, I'm kind of past that after all this time. I'm past the ego of it. It's really because I am downloading very clear messages from spirit and I'm mediating those information, those messages, through my voice, my personality, my level of understanding, right? And if I'm not explaining it well, I need to know that, right? I need to know because I'm only here for God. I'm only here for spirit. Spirit is having its way with me and using me. So I need to make sure that I'm explaining things well. And if I am, then I'm like, yes, I'm doing what I came here to do. So that's why I asked that, just so y'all know. Okay. So I also love this idea that Spirit really wants me to give you guys right now about going back to the basics, keeping it simple, right? Our mind can just make things so complicated, so confusing. And the idea here is going back to your truth, right? So you're worried about all these things. And it's like what the spirit guides are saying is like, go back to the truth, go back to your relationship with God, and all else will fall in place, just like the Michael Beckwith story. Go back to realizing that your abundance and your truth and your happiness comes from the oneness that we're all connected to, spirit, God, right, universe, whatever you feel comfortable calling it. Some of you call it Buddha, Jesus, Allah, Moses, whoever you call it, right? And it's about kind of simplifying things. And I think that's a really, really cool idea, especially during this time in our consciousness, because wow, there is just so much information and so many ideas and so many things going on. It's nice to sometimes get the message of just breathe, go back to the truth, go back to one, right? When they shoot things, like when they shoot videos or not videos, you know what I mean? Commercials, TV shows, movies, they'll shoot a scene and then after they'll be like, cut, okay, back to one. Back to one means reset to the beginning of the scene, right? So I feel like right now the guides are saying back to one. Let's reset. What is real? What do we think? Let's go back to that. Let's right our ship. And let's allow ourselves to just focus on that instead of the little details of who am I and can I bring these things together, and right, which is absolutely normal. Again, I do it all the time. And the message I keep on getting is just realign with truth and things will fall into place. Realign with truth and people that aren't meant to be in your life will fall away. Realign with truth and your energy elevates and you will meet other people with elevated energy. Realign with truth and things will fall into place. And that was what was so powerful about that story and why my guides wanted me to share it with you today. The other interesting thing kind of with this idea of keeping it simple. Okay, so I talked a little bit about this in the beginning of this episode. I was like, that's for another episode, but my guides have now brought it up again. So let's go. So, and I'll totally do a podcast on exactly what went down. So I'm really just giving you kind of a glossed over version. But basically, I started working with some people on, let's just say, on a project, a very big project. And they said certain things, promised me certain things, and none of it was true. Okay. So maybe I'll do a podcast on listening to your intuitive voice and red flags that come up. I'm crying and laughing at the same time. It's kind of like those memes that like is like your spirit guide, like yelling at you, look out. And you're like, no, it's good. It's good. So anyway, so maybe we'll do a podcast on red flags, but that's for later. So what this was I was working with them. They were pretty dishonest with me and it was a big hit. It was a big hit. I mean, everything I'm doing is flourishing. Like spiritual medium Erika Gabriel, that everything I'm doing is amazing. All is well. But this was a separate thing. This was an elevated project that I was working on, and brought in this partnership. And it really, unfortunately, they were really dishonest. I wish them a lot of luck and many blessings going forward. I really do. And I'll pray for them. And I mean that. I'm not just saying like, oh, bless their heart. Ha ha ha. You know what I mean? I am definitely working with the elements of forgiveness and releasing it and all is well. But I was talking to a dear friend who lives in Los Angeles, who I love so much. I miss you, girl. I miss you, Kim. She lives in Los Angeles. I miss her desperately. And I was telling her in detail about what happened. And she said to me, you know what? Just go back to what you do because you built this shit from the beginning. So just go back to what you do. You built this shit. Just go back to what you do. And I was like, yeah, right? She basically, as a supportive friend, was saying, like, just go back to your intention. Keep it simple. Sometimes we have to go back to our foundation, our core, our intention. What is your intention? What did I originally set out to do? Go back, go back, go back. Why are you here? You're here to serve. Why are you here? You're here to serve God. Why are you here? You're here to spread messages that Spirit give to you to bring love and healing to as many people as possible. Just go back to that. Keep it simple. And so the message for you guys is whatever your intention is, if things are slipping away from you, feeling complicated, right? We're talking about overcomplicating things. Go back to what drives you. Go back to your intention. Go back to your intention. I had someone recently call me that was building a spiritual practice and a spiritual business. And she had become totally focused on getting clients. So like, getting pens created with her name on it and flyers and all of this stuff, and nothing was moving. And it was like, because your focus has now turned into creating and making pens for your business. Go back to the foundation. Go back to the foundation of your business. Why are you doing this? Rewrite your ship to your intention. And this really holds. This holds with this whole conversation. Go back to your truth. Go back to your intention. Go back to what you know. Focus there. When you focus there, everything else rises. Everything else expands. Everything else starts to fall into place. Go back to whence you came, right? Go back to where you started. If you're feeling confused, overwhelmed, don't know where to go, don't know what to do with spirituality, with life, whatever it may be, simplify, breathe, go back to what's real. And for me, after this situation happened, is going back to my intention and going back directly to my relationship to God and staying there. Just stay there. So the other thing I want to say, and this is kind of, I don't know if this is relevant. Is this relevant? Is this relevant? Let me think. I think it is. Whatever. Vibe with me here. This may be jumping around a little bit. I jump around a bit, but here we go. So actually, this is, of course, it's relevant because it has to do with spirit, but it's kind of a different idea. You know how people say in spirituality, just like surrender, surrender. And, we get it, right? Surrender. The idea is if you try and bang something, force something, you squeeze the shit out of it, and then you close off the flow, and you basically start to block yourself from the very thing you want. So surrendering is also, there's a massive component of faith, right? I surrender this situation to God, to spirit, to universal life force energy, whatever it may be. I surrender this situation and I put it in spirit's hands. And I work hard, or I work for it. I move towards it. I think about it. I feel good about it, but I surrender it. Boom, surrender. Raise your hand if surrendering is tough for you. And I am raising both my hands. I know a lot of you out there as well that listen. I know so many of you so well. It's like you're type A, I guess it's called, where you're just like very organized, in control, like things like that, right? I'm not super type A, pretty disorganized. Should I start crying? Is that appropriate for this podcast? No? Yes. But I know a lot of us are in control. We're type A, and it's very hard to surrender. So I have surrendered a couple things, I guess, in my life. And I also find it challenging because I grew up with people around me that worked hard. It's like you don't give anything up. You bust your ass and you work really hard. So for me, I've had to surrender this idea of working and striving and being active and surrendering at the same time. It's interesting. This episode is called Best of Both Worlds. So this is super relevant for that title, right? Best of both worlds, actively working towards something and actively surrendering it and letting spirit come in and letting spirit kind of guide you and let it flow. Okay. So basically, this podcast, I mean, I 100% let it go. I surrendered it to spirit. Didn't even put no intensity on it at all, like at all. And in fact, I got an offer to move this podcast to a pretty big network, to move it. And my guides were just like, no. And I'm like, no. They're like, no. And by the way, I have no desire to move this podcast. I love my media company. They're so awesome. I would 100% stay with them anyway. And I asked Spirit, right? Because I have to go where Spirit calls me. They're like, absolutely not. So I'm so happy to be here. But point is, I let this podcast go. As you know, I've had a long hiatus. I thought I'm going to work on these other things and these projects, and I'm so busy with readings and creating courses and all these things, and I just kind of surrendered it with love, right? I didn't surrender it like, I don't care about it, bye. I surrendered it with love. What is meant to be will be. What is meant to be for You Are Not Alone will be. I surrendered it. And I did it in a way that was real, right? So you know how sometimes you really want something, you're like, I'm going to give it to God. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'm just going to keep checking on it every single day, but it's surrendered. It's surrendered. And it's like, no, it's not. But I actually surrendered this podcast. And the wave of response, the wave of activation, the people writing me, where's the podcast? We need this podcast. Erika, we need your podcast, or people calling me, for readings. Where did you find me? Your podcast. It was like, whoa. I surrendered the podcast and you guys sent it back to me in a beautiful, big wave of energy. So I was able, and this podcast is a lot of work in a good way. I love doing the podcast. So right now, I am best of both worlds, surrendered this podcast and now working for it in a beautiful way, bringing them together to bring these messages to you. I will continue to make this the most authentic podcast I absolutely can. I am 100% real with you guys. I am 100% telling you the truth and how things are downloaded to me. I feel like sometimes I go in and listen to podcasts and I can tell they're censoring themselves. They've changed. They won't share their truth. They're kind of guarding themselves, and that's totally, totally fine. I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to be 100% real with you. I am heavily, heavily vetting all guests that I have on, because the response that these guests get after they come on the show is a huge response. So I am heavily vetting the guests. I am going to keep this 100% real. I cannot thank you enough for the incredible feedback and the overwhelming call for me to do this again from you guys. I cannot thank you enough. It is amazing. It is incredible to feel this wave come back to me as I pushed that wave out in surrendering. So thank you guys so, so much. Make sure you follow me at Spiritual Medium Erika on Instagram. I got the blue check. Now you just pay for it. So it's not like some great honor, but nonetheless, who cares? You guys know it's really me. I have the blue check. Follow me at Spiritual Medium Erika. If you want a reading with me, get on my wait list, you guys, because sometimes the wait list goes out 6 months, 7 months. Get on my wait list, go to erikagabriel.com, and please check out my incredible, powerful new course, The Way. It's on my podcast. I have never believed in anything more than I do this course. It is not for the faint of heart. It is if you're ready to truly move the blocks from your path so you can become your full self, realize your true potential. It's a powerful course. I hope you'll take it. I love you guys. God bless you. Freaking welcome back to You Are Not Alone. Get ready, buckle up, season 3. Let's do this. Let's expand. Let's raise our vibration, and let's reconnect with each other and with God. God bless you all. I love you. Have a beautiful day and stay tuned for the next You Are Not Alone.